we've got some more for you, some tunes and some talk for you, some runny folks on toast for you. To send you on your way, 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 send you on your way, send you on your way.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
I'm Ailish,
And I am Izzy.
and you're listening to Runny Folks on Toast on Brixton Radio. This is our first show together,
We're very excited.
and if you couldn't guess from the title, it's all about folk music.
And a little bit about breakfast.
And just a tiny bit about breakfast. I don't have any toast today. I do have oats. I have overnight oats.
Ailish has a mini mason jar.
Yeah, you'll see if you're tuning in live and you're watching the video, then you'll see me eating out of it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice there's a camera there. Hello.
Hello. It's multimedia, Izzy.
It's immersive.
Ooh.
Immersive. Do you feel immersed? And for breakfast this morning, I had oats, overnight oats with apple and pear and cacao powder, because I don't drink coffee because I have the temperament of a 5-year-old child.
Wow. That's
how
like properly autumnal. I feel really weird standing like that.
we're both like hunched over because the mics are a little bit below us. It looks like we're about to say something very important.
Hello, back problems.
It looks like we're about to say something very important, but also a bit corrupt, like a business meeting.
A little sprinkling of both.
But that's what you're here for, right?
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
the
Well, happy Monday. I think we're going to start with a song.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. No need to push the boat out so much.
We're going to start with a song. Should we start with mine? I've got it loaded up.
Yeah. Well, should we start with shall we start with Ailish? There's nothing on.
There's nothing on there.
And I was a bit late, so yeah, I think we're going to start with Ailish.
So this first song is For the Roses by Joni Mitchell. Oh, no, it's not. That's the album. It's You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio. And we'll maybe talk a little bit about it after we play it.
Still smoking, call me at the station. The lights are
So that was You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio by Joni Mitchell. Do you like that song, Izzy?
It's okay.
It's okay.
No, it's actually, we discussed this, is my favourite. I said it's my favourite Joni Mitchell song.
And I
Liz was like,
agreed.
yeah, it's also my favourite Joni Mitchell. Because when we were talking about the show, Liz was like, we have to play probably one Joni Mitchell song per
At least
and
per episode. She's my god. I worship her.
She's incredible. I remember I listened to, there was a really good show about her on BBC. BBC Sounds.
You told me about this, but I haven't actually listened. Watched it.
It was I think it was for the anniversary, maybe the 50th anniversary of Blue, and I remember exactly where I was listening to it, and it was just so
Where were
beautiful. You? I was on Wandsworth Common, where all dreams come true. It's like the common next to where I grew up my whole life, and so woven with memories of just getting like, really pissed when I was like 12 and 13. But now I'm recultivating it with, rewilding it with more, with
Joni's sounds.
with slightly more civilized memories.
I've got a couple facts about this song.
Hit me.
So, Graham Nash, David Crosby, and Neil Young all were part of the recording session.
Oh wow!
But only Graham Nash's harmonica stayed on the single.
Ooh.
Obviously, they had a really big thing.
Sounds like nepotism. He slept his way to the top.
No. You know, Blue's like basically entirely about Graham Nash.
I actually don't know. I don't know much about Graham Nash.
And then, so I like to say, so I went through my own heartbreak about this time last year. And then I went traveling to Brazil. And I said that I was in my Blue era because she went through heartbreak and then she went traveling in Europe. And then now I'm in my For the Roses era because this is when she comes back home. She plants some roots. She goes and lives by herself in Laurel Canyon in the mountains in California and writes this super, much like Blue was such a sad and like, I mean, it's also hopeful as well, and playful, but it's quite a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching album. Whereas For the Roses, I feel like you see her more sassy side, and it kind of sets the stage a little bit for like her later jazzier albums because it's kind of, Yeah, I totally agree, and I think in Blue you can see this real reflection on her melancholy, on her emotions, and it's because it kind of oscillates a bit with a bit more contrast between these little quite granular memories of, you know, a coaster with your face drawn on it, and then these really big feelings of being up in the clouds and the sky, and it feels very she's like, there's a sense of processing and emotional processing there and through imagery that's really granular and really, really big. And I think that is very characteristic of emotional processing. But then For the Roses, I feel like she's writing stories for herself a bit more. Yeah,
and in
definitely.
this track, I love this track because it's just such a beautiful story about love and writing your own mythologies about what love is, and then using something like radio, which was obviously, and not leaning into any nostalgia, but looking forward and looking at, you know, the new technology of radio and thinking, and then investing love in that environment around her. So it feels a lot more forward thinking and like writing and active creative. Yeah,
definitely. Actually, this song, so I don't know whether you know this story. I feel like it's quite well known, but she basically, David Geffen, her manager, he told her for this album, you need to write a hit single, lean into like pop music and all of this stuff. And this song is basically Joni's diss track to be like, it's kind of like, you know, it's like, you turn me on, I'm a radio, I'm a country station, I'm a little bit corny. Like, she's sort of taking the piss, basically saying like, that's not me. But, you know, if you don't, what does she say? There's a lyric where it's like, if there's no good reception for me, then tune me out. She's basically saying, if you don't like the music I make as a person.
That's completely gone over my head.
No, as in like, obvious. When I first heard it, I thought it was like a little, any song that's got the word you in it, you think it's about you, also my love, my loved one.
You turn me on.
Yeah, that too. That went over my head. But yeah, no, and like David Geffen, I've got a little quote here actually. He says, it was almost kind of making fun of my attempt for her to write a hit record. And I just think it's quite funny. That's from Rolling Stone. I think it's quite funny that he says, it was almost kind of. It's completely, David. It's completely a diss at you.
I think she might be.
Maybe, but maybe not. That's a definitely.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Should we...
Hey, play your one.
So this is June Tabor. I've had people say it differently, and it's her version of the Bonnie Boy.
Slight technical issue. The music's not coming through. Give us 1 second. We've stopped the record players. Sorry for the long dramatic pause. So sorry. Something seems to be going wrong with Izzy's poor, lovely record that we won't get to listen to this time. That's so sad. We're gonna change the tune. What tune is it?
It's also June Tabor. It's just a different song by her. It's called Wild Gamekeepers. Actually, no, I'm going to start with Adventures of Isabel, which is a poem by Ogden Nash set to music by Natalie Merchant.
Lovely.
Isabel met an enormous bear. Isabel, she didn't care. There was hungry, there was revenue. There's big mouth, was cruel and governor. They said, Isabel, glad to meet you. How do Isabel? Now I'll meet you. Isabel, she didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. Washed her hands, straightened her hair up. Hey, Isabel ate the bear up. Witch's face was lost and wrinkled. Witch's gums, teeth and sprinkle. Oh, oh, Isabel, oh, it's grow. Turn you into an ugly toad. Isabel, didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. Showed no rage, showed no rancor. Turned the witch into milk and drank her. Oh, yeah. Isabel! swallow this, gonna make you well. Isabel, Isabel, didn't hurry. Isabel, didn't scream or scurry. Took those pills from the pill concoctor. Then Isabel killed the doctor, yeah. Oh yeah.
Hello. Yeah,
Sorry for the long dramatic pause.
Yeah, we're going to go to digital for the rest of the show just to ensure that we don't have any more
hiccups.
So yeah, that was Adventures of Isabel. And the reason I included this one was because I sort of think this album was the first sounds of folk that I listened to when I was really, really young. Or at least it was embodies the reasons I then loved folk when I got into it, or traditional folk music when I got into it about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's an album by Natalie Merchant. I actually can't remember what it's called now. It's really bad. I'll look it up. But it's got a grey cover, and it has all of these songs that are poems. Some of them anonymous, like "The Man in the Wilderness," which is, do you know that poem? It's like
No,
the man
I don't
in the
know
wilderness went, like, asked me how. And it's a really beautiful poem. And I actually won a poetry competition reciting it when I was in year 4. So it holds a very special place in my heart. And I think there's a lot of folky influences from definitely around the world. There's other tracks on it, like The Dancing Bear, which has a lot of klezmer influences. And they're so beautiful, and I think they have the same a lot of the songs have the same lyrical structure as a lot of traditional folk songs, which is that there isn't any particular chorus. There's just sort of like, there's a verse and then a refrain,
yeah.
And it's very narrative heavy, and often there'll be a narrative template that's repeated with alterations throughout each verse. And this one is really special to my heart because my name is Isabel. My parents used to play it. I used to grow up being like,
it's your song.
It's my song. And then when I first listened to traditional folk, which was the Mary Wallopers, was the first musicians I listened to. I listened to them and I was thinking, this actually really reminds me of, and another song I'm going to play later, this really reminds me of, the song Ainog reminds me of this album I used to listen to when I was younger. So it's not, it sort of is, there are some definitions of folk that maybe wouldn't contain this track, but I think, it's a poem by Ogden Nash set to music, and it's just beautiful, and for me, focus so much about the poetry of lyric.
And is Ogden a woman?
No, I don't think so. I think Ogden Nash. I think it's it might be a nonsense. I didn't know I was going to play this song because I thought I was going to play the vinyl, so I don't have loads of information about it. But I think Ogden Nash it's a pseudonym.
Okay.
I think it's a nonsense pseudonym. I'm not entirely sure. I will have to double check that.
Well, just to go back to what you were saying about how some definitions of folk might not include this, I think that's something that both of us are quite keen to talk about. And we'll get into this maybe a little bit later, because I'm sure you all want to listen to some music. But I think it's something that we both sort of have spoken quite a bit about, actually, about what folk means and the sort of essence of folk music, and maybe that there are almost like two definitions of it. There's like a genre definition of it, and then there's a more practice, lifestyle, history definition of what folk music is. And
I think both can be used to sort of to monopolize on things that don't necessarily require ownership. And equally, both can be very, very liberating. Like conceptions and definitions. But I was thinking about how you often also get, I think it's happening less and less now, but you'll have definitions on genres. It'll be like world and folk, and it's really strange. And I think because what we're seeing there is this sort of effort to claim authenticity, both from folk as something that's this idea of folk being associated with like land and indigeneity, but then also lumping in the rest of the non-Western world with that definition, and sort of conflating this idea of like land-based indigeneity with a sort of fetish of like exoticism that's very colonial.
It almost reminds me of how at the Oscars there's a category called Best Foreign Film, and you're like, That's so many films. Like, what do you mean you're lumping them all together?
And there can only be one.
There can only be one.
And they're all competing in the same parameters, which is just imposed by
yeah,
like, a Western.
And the parameters aren't even artistic anymore. They're just, are you not from here?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
like othering.
And it's funny how, I don't know, the word primitive or primitivism is now widely acknowledged to be incredibly xenophobic and racist and colonial as a term and as a piece of rhetoric.
Yeah.
But it's still here.
Izzy's taking off her shoes.
It's
getting really serious.
But it's still, the concept of it and the understanding of it is still very much present in these genres that we're hearing about, and in the way that value is assigned to different genres and different categories of art forms by particular authorities like the Oscars or like genres that even from streaming services.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, should we have the next? Maybe we play a few songs.
Yeah, I think we'll play a few
and
songs.
then have a little chat afterwards.
Matter.
So that also, I really want to eat my breakfast. Okay, this first one I'm going to play is "We Shall Overcome" by Pete Seeger.
Overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Deep in my heart, oh, deep in my heart, I do believe, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. 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 Someday, someday. Oh, live in my heart. I do believe we shall overcome someday. And the most important verse is the one they wrote down in Montgomery, Alabama. They said, "We are not afraid." And the young people taught everybody else a lesson. All the older people that had learned how to compromise and learned how to take it easy and be polite and get along and leave things as they were. The young people taught us all a lesson. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. Today, oh, live in my heart. I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday.
dog too, and it keeps him in me keeping. But I catch those hares that run by night while the gamekeepers lie asleeping. My dog and me went out one night for to learn some education. Jumped a hare and away she ran right into some large plantation. She had not gone so very far before something stopped her running. Oh, and she loudly cried, "Stop a minute, your uncle's coming." Oh, I took out my little penknife and quickly I did punch her. She turned out one of the female kind. I'm glad I got her. I picks her up and I smooths her down and it puts her in me keeping. I says to my dog, it's time to be going while the gamekeepers lie asleeping. Oh, wait, me and my dog did go back into the town. We took that hare to a labouring man and we sold it for a crown. We went into some public house and there we got quite mellow. For we spent that crown and another one too. Don't you think I'm a good-hearted fellow? Oh, I've got a dog and a good dog too, and it keeps him in me keeping. But I catch those hares that run by night while the gamekeepers lie asleeping. Thank you, Flynn.
Gosh, I really love it when they leave a little bit of talking and like clapping. It really gives you a sense of the environment that they were singing it in. And I guess folk is so much about environment as well, isn't it? It can be performed on a stage, it can be performed in recitals, but it also can just be like sort of linking back to the one that I played, We Shall Overcome by Pete Seeger. That was played at protests during the civil rights movement in the States in the 50s and 60s. Or it can be played around a campfire. And that's what's so lovely about folk, is that it sort of like almost breaks the fourth wall in a way between music and people. It like rebinds that relationship and makes it like reciprocal, rather than the musician is giving something to the people watching.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that participatory idea, especially about traditional folk music, was what really drew me in, especially to June Tabor, which was the track I just played, which was what I loved about learning those songs and singing them at gigs, was the fact that there felt like this loss of ego that happens maybe more in pop music, that isn't always a bad thing at all, but you have songs, I don't know, for example, Adele, right? Her voice is so recognizable, and there's so much about the particular lilts and the particular character of her voice that make the appeal, that construct the appeal of her music. But there's a sense that in traditional folk music that you're a vessel more. And I've been around campfires with people who sing songs, and they're not sing by, like, if you were, I don't know, put them through auto pitch, there's no it's not perfect pitch by any means, but it makes absolutely no difference. And it's so beautiful. And it's funny because when I was downloading your song, We Shall Overcome, I was looking at all these versions and all of them were live, and I was like, where's the produced version? I clearly can't find it. And then I was like, oh, that's because obviously, yeah, no, definitely.
That the We Shall Overcome version by Pete Seeger is from an album that was released by Folkways, the Smithsonian Museum's project for collecting and archiving folk music from around the world, that started, I think maybe in the 40s. I've got the facts on my phone, but I've stupidly set up my phone over there to do a little like video of us doing the show. But yeah, and so that album's a really good one if you sort of want to explore folk music. It sort of explores lots of different ones from, you know, that one I think is mainly in the States. But yeah, and it's sort of, you can really hear that was the foundation, the springboard from which the folk revival in the 60s and 70s grew from, was from that urge to collect and archive and yeah.
Yeah, and then collecting and archiving as a whole kind of kettle of fish in and of itself, isn't it? So I've recently did some volunteer archiving at the Cecil Sharp House and the Vaughan Williams Library, and it's fantastic. They have, and what I came across so often was these dissertations and PhD dissertations, master's dissertations, talking about the nature of Cecil Sharp's collection and his curation of that collection, because he was actually a really bad guy.
Really?
Yeah, he was really racist, really deeply xenophobic.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
no, I know. And then, but so for him, and also this was, I think it's quite in cahoots with, I know you think someone's like, you when you see a figure who's then at the same time provided so much, kind of cultivated the survival and the dissemination, especially electronically, or because it's in cahoots with this institution of so much music. But actually, there was a lot of, I guess, so it's really not epistemological violence.
Ooh. Please define.
So epistemological sort of refers to the creation of knowledge and sort of the institutional making of meaning. And so for Cecil Sharp, and also I think part of the reason, this partly why the BBC was so supportive, was that it was very much this sense of creating this national music. This national,
Yeah, because it's home to the English Society of Folk and Dance.
Yeah, or EFDAS, as it's
Yeah,
abbreviated by lots of people. English Folk Dance and Song Society.
Yeah.
And there's, but the library are doing so much amazing work to really reflect on how the library and the archive itself can stay dynamic in the current times and reflect a wide variety of views and perspectives.
Do you wonder whether we should maybe start a petition to maybe change the name of it?
Well,
do you think? I don't know. I feel like after, especially after BLM, and there was like a real move to sort of take down all these statues of people that, okay, they might have done some amazing things in some facets, but you can't, I guess it goes back to the question of can you separate the art from the artist? You see it's not just an art. And I wonder whether maybe changing the name under which they do their research.
I think there's definitely a move to refer to it. I know, especially by I think the people who work there. I don't want to speak on their behalf. I only volunteered there for a couple of weeks, but there's definitely a move to refer to it as the English Folk Dance and Song Society. But I don't really know how it works, because that building, which is still and continues to be such a hub for English folk music for people of all backgrounds, increasingly so, and that's a move that needs to be consciously made, and a space that needs to be consciously made more welcome. But that building and the funding for that library was only because of Cecil Sharp's. I imagine it. I really don't know, but I imagine it might be legally bound up. So I don't know what would happen. Yeah. And also, I think it probably gets funding. I think it gets funding from
because of its name.
Yeah, and there are lots of people who will fund it who are a bit older and of a different generation. And I imagine there's probably things that I really don't know. I'm kind of speaking out my arse here. But I think that there's a lot of legal binding between Cecil Sharp's will and what he left, and and not so much what Vaughan Williams left, I'm not sure, but between that and then the financial foundation of the library itself. But I think there is generally, I know on the Instagram it's called English Folk Dance and Song Society, and all the people I know sort of who are more involved intimately with it refer to it as EFTAS. So I think there is a move away from that.
Right, yeah. Sort of more from person to person.
But that's just talking about a sort of, like you say, interpersonal discussion point. But actually, like you say with statues, it's still inscribed on the building itself in Camden. And so thinking about the way that figures are monumentalized in the urban landscape, for sure, there's definitely a very strong argument to be made for altering that or changing that.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on to the next couple songs?
Yes.
Okay, great. Also, we keep meaning to say, Izzy and I actually don't know each other super well. We met at the beginning of summer.
Yeah, we met when all of our friends were...
So one of our friends was leaving, a mutual friend was leaving to go do some other cool stuff. And we met up, and Yeah, so you said it really well the other day.
All of our friends were sort of like being a bit scatty and dancing in front of a cage to intense industrial noise music, and then me and Ailish were out in the bar, which was also playing the music out into the bar, just having these really intense conversations about Irishness and folk music.
And then we sort of just were like, let's just do a folk radio show together. That would be super fun. And so actually what we're doing here is we're playing I think we've said this anyway, but we're playing sort of one song each, and it's sort of a chance for us to get to know each other, as well as, I guess, for anyone who's listening to get to know us too, and get to know what we'd like to listen to and what we like to talk about. But yeah, this next song is Walking in My Sleep by Hazel Dickens and Alice Gerrard. It's from an album called The Pioneering Women of Bluegrass.
I do feel a bit guilty about calling noise music. I do like noise music. I don't want to alienate our noise music audience. Which
No,
surely
we love
is a
it.
huge proportion.
We weren't doing it because we didn't want to be there.
No.
We weren't escaping. We just got pulled in by the folk.
Vortex.
Walking in my sleep, babe, walking in my sleep. Up and down that Dixie line, walking in my sleep. Now when you see that gal of mine, tell her if you please. When she goes, make a friend to roll her dirty sleeves. Walking in my sleep, babe, walking in my sleep. Up and down that Dixie line, walking in my sleep. Pain in my finger, pain in my toe, pain in my ankle bone, ain't gonna work no more. Walking in my sleep, babe, walking in my sleep. Up and down that Dixie line, walking in my sleep. Bake them biscuits, baby, bake them good and brown. When I eat my breakfast, I'm Alabama bound. Walking in my sleep, babe, walking in my sleep. Up and down that Dixie line, walking in my sleep. Well, yonder comes my baby, how do you think I know? Tell him by his rolling curls hanging down so low. Walking in my sleep, babe, walking in my sleep. Up and down that Dixie line, walking in my sleep.
Eileen Oaks, that's my darling's name, is through the barony. Your features, they were famous. If we loved her, who was there to blame us? For wasn't she the bride of Petrovore? But her beauty made us also shine. Not a man could look her in the eye. Boys, oh boys, sure that's the reason why we're a mourning for the bride of Petrovore. Eileen, oh, me heart is going grey ever since the day you wandered far away. Eileen, oh, there's more fish in the sea, but there's none like the bride of Petrovore. Friday at the fair in Ballintubber, Eileen met McGrath the cattle jobber. I'd like to set me mark across the robber, for he stole away the bride of Petrovore. He never seemed to see the girl at all, even when she ogled him underneath her shawl. Looking big and masterful when and she was looking small, most provoking for the pride of Petrivore. Eileen, oh, me heart is going grey ever since the day you wandered far away. Eileen, oh, there's more fish in the sea, but there's nothing like the pride of Petrivore. And so it went as it was in the beginning. Eileen O was bent upon the winning. Oh, big McGrath contentedly was grinning, being courted by the bride of Petrivore. So see, you know, a girl that'll put you into fits. Oh, with that Eileen nearly lost her wits. The upshot of the ruction is that now the robber sits with his arm around the bride of Petrivore. Eileen, oh, me heart is going grey ever since the day you wandered far away. Eileen, oh, there's more fish in the sea, but there's none of them like the bride of Petrivore. With fate it's hard to grapple, love me I. Sure Eileen was the apple, and now to see her walking up the chapel with the hardest featured man at Petrivore. And now me boys, this is all I have to say. If you plan a courting, make no display. If you want them to run after you, then walk the other way, for they're mostly like the bride of Petrivore. Eileen, oh, me heart is going grey ever since the day you wandered far away. Fish in the sea, but there's none of them like the bride of Petrivore. Eileen, oh, me heart is going grey ever since the day you wandered far away. Eileen, oh, there's more fish in the sea, but there's none of them like the bride of Petrivore. No, siree, no, there's none of them like the bride of Petrivore. No, wait, no, there's none of them like the, 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 none of them like the bride of Petrivore.
I guess the first time I've ever used CDJs to do folk music, like I usually do it for electronic dance music, and I've actually got a show later on today. Plug.
Lincoln.
And
tune in.
So I just turned the bass down. I found that in a name.
Amusing.
Yeah,
amusing.
Yeah.
So what one was that, Izzy?
So that is called Eileen Og by the Crack Addicts, CRAIC. And
What's the crack?
What's the Crack Addicts? I can't do that because I probably have.
I have Irish heritage, so I feel like I'm entitled to do that.
Yeah.
You can't go around with a name like Ailish if you don't. You don't have any business going around with a name like that if you don't have any roots in Ireland.
Oh my God, wait, this is a slightly different topic, but I've recently found out that I might have an Italian grandparent, as in be able to have a EU passport. It's really exciting.
Oh my God, that is so exciting. See, I forget that that's a problem that you guys have to deal with.
You heathens, literally. But yeah, so that was one of the first, I concluded that was one of the first songs. I tried to play songs that sort of narrate my journey with traditional folk music. And so that, I originally listened to that song in a live pub session with the Merry Wallopers. Who do you know? They're like this, about 3-4 years ago. They're an Irish traditional folk band, and they're so much fun, and it's a lot of kind of drinking songs, and it's very like rambunctious. And they were on the stage at Glastonbury, and they played at Latitude. I told my dad to go see them, and he came back, he was like, they were amazing, I loved them, the crowd went nuts.
You also can swear on Brixton Radio if it comes out.
Okay.
Yeah. I just saw you were about to do it, and you're like,
friggin', they were friggin' crazy.
No, we're allowed to.
Okay. X-rated, X-rated folk breakfast show. And then I basically was like, I think I looked up Eileen Og, which their version, and then I found the Crack Addicts one, and I was like, this is fucking lit. This is so good.
It's so good.
And
it's so
great.
high energy.
It's all about just saying that you have to play hard to get. It's saying, if like boys, oh boys, this is all I have to say. If you plan on courting, make no display. If you want them to run after you, then walk the other way, because they're mostly like the pride of Petravore. And basically saying
What's the last little bit? The pride.
they're mostly like the pride of Petravore. So there's
What's that?
the pride of Petravore is like the most gorgeous woman. She was like the Langaskull in Petravore, basically, and everyone was like had the hots for her.
Okay.
And then
Was she a real lady?
I
Because
actually
she's just mythological.
I'm not sure. It's an old song, so I'm not entirely sure. But next show I will do a little bit more research about the actual lyrics. But I think it's just an old song. I'm sure it's one of those. It might be one of those ones where it changes the place name every single song. And then this, I think it's probably more of a fable story, or been like more embedded as it's gone on.
Sort of like what you were saying earlier about how loads of folk music is narrative. It's like it's stories, it's sharing stories. It's almost like a different way of storytelling in a way. It's you've got like, rather than it like you say, like rather than the structure being verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, verse, it's a lot more the flow of the song follows the flow of the narrative rather than the music leading it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And
in some folk music.
No, I think I completely agree, and I think that will be following on from the fact that a lot of folk music is originating from its tradition with broadsides and ballads, and the fact that a lot of folk music comes from people singing in the town, being like, "This person has died." So like, there's a way in which these songs had to be really, really.
That is an Izzy Walters original.
Yeah.
Nondescript person has died.
Out on all platforms. Search under Bandcamp experimental. But yeah, and like, so when I was doing a bunch of research for the Thames Festival, my gig that I did with them, and I put together a song that was a combination of a lot of different broadsides about the wreck of the Princess Alice, which was a big like a sort of like recreational touristy boat that sunk off the coast of like Woolwich Shore.
Wow.
And kind of, I think one of the reasons that you don't really have a refrain that's longer than in these songs that I found, a refrain that's longer than 5 words, is because you need the rest of the verse to pack in all this information to say these were the people who died, this is when it happened, this is where it was. And then
imagine the news was announced like that nowadays. Imagine you tuned into
back,
BBC
take me
News. And it was like a whole like band, and then the news presenter was the singer telling you what had happened that day.
And Piers Morgan's songs would just be so aggressive and really really intense.
Oh my god. Okay, I've just looked at the time.
Okay,
We've got less than 10 minutes. But just quickly, I just wanted to say a little bit about Walking in My Sleep. Was by two, well, like the album says, pioneering women of bluegrass. And actually it was so unusual to see women in bluegrass music. And so they were really ahead of their time. And I just sort of wanted to acknowledge that little piece of information. I think we've played like quite a variety of, we haven't just played men. You get a lot of male folk singers when you sort of first tap into the history of folk music. But
I kind of like only like male traditional. Well, I don't listen to that much American folk music. I listen to a lot of traditional English and Irish, and a bit of Scottish folk music. And in terms of traditional English folk songs, which is my real kind of have a really like I just feel really connected to. I only really like the male voice when it's with female voice, which you would have heard if the vinyl had worked. But it's fine. Sorry.
Next time.
I was going on a bit about the crack addicts, but I didn't feel like I took away your time.
No, oh my god, no, not at all. Okay, let's play our last 2 songs. My last song is Willow's Song. It's by Paul Giovanni and Magnet, and if you recognise it, it's from the I can't remember what year it came out. 1973, The Wicker Man. It's from the soundtrack.
as gentle as a feather. I'll catch a rainbow from the sky and tie the ends together. Hey ho, I am here. Am I not young and fair? Please come, say how do. The things I'll show to you. Would you have a wondrous sight? The midday sun at midnight. Fair maid, white and red, comb you smooth and stroke your head.
Hello.
Hello.
So there's been a little change of plan, and actually, because there's no radio show on afterwards, those won't be our last songs.
You lucky sods.
Woo woo woo. What was your call? I can't speak.
It was Mandala by Sally Oldfield, who is the sister of, well, she generally gets cast as the sister of Mike Oldfield, who did the incredibly seminal, actually it's such a bad word to use, seminal, because it just means semen. Seminal.
No way.
I know, yeah, I was in a tutorial once, and like one of my friends was talking about this this art history essay by Linda Nochlin, which is a really, really important feminist piece of art history.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yes, the seminal work by Linda Nochlin. And then the head of our department, who's Australian, was like, I don't think she would appreciate you calling her work seminal, Edith. He just got to shreds. So every time I say the word, say formative. It's a formative, he did a formative instrumental album, Tubular Bells.
Oh, I don't know it.
It was really good.
You have to send it to me.
It is really, really, really good.
When did it come out? Is it relatively modern? Is it contemporary?
No. It came out in, I think, the 70s, early 70s.
And
it's
got a really modern feel to it.
Oh, that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, that song. I love her music so much. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Tubular Bells. So Tubular Bells was like, it was an instrumental track that was filled up both sides of an LP, and it was released on Richard Branson's label Virgin.
Oh, okay.
But then they were like, we can't do this. This is ridiculous. It's an instrumental album on two sides, and then it did really well. But while Oldfield, that track is great. Sally Oldfield has repeatedly done incredible songs like this, and I just don't think I think she's in the shadow.
Is she
a bit?
Is she his sister?
Yeah, she's his older sister.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's so
that's the burden of the older sister. It's the burden of the older sister.
Is there some personal?
No,
Speaking for a friend.
What's it in I love how we're on a folk radio show right now, and I'm about to reference She's the Man.
She's the Man.
But that bit where she's like, speaking as a completely objective third person party who has no personal interest in the matter, like the long-winded, like basically this
being in the shadow of but yeah, but I think she's fantastic. I keep on trying to email her.
Saying what?
She lives in Germany because that's where her records started doing well. Her records are a bit more popular. I just really want to buy her books that she's written, and also I have this dream that I will write the first biography about Sally Oldfield.
Do it.
I want to, but she won't.
She won't.
She keeps
reply.
on airing me.
Maybe you need to write a couple other books first. So that she feels like she feels.
book one. Please reply to my emails, Sally Oldfield. I probably
book
need to write a
two.
please.
Book two's just a printed copy of the automated reply email that you got.
Exactly. But she wrote this song while she was inspired when she had she felt she had a transcendental experience with the moon on Clapham Common.
Wow.
And that's where that song's from. With there was a sort of Ferris wheel, and I think she felt it was quite spooky, and you can kind of feel that she was walking at night through Clapham Common, which obviously is now feels a bit dangerous, but yeah. Sorry.
So what does she say? What are the lyrics in?
She's saying, I can feel the mandala.
Okay. So I thought she was saying, I can feel the men dying. And I thought, oh yeah, that's, folk tradition.
Hardcore feminist.
Like maybe, I don't know, toxic feminism.
Have you read that Scum Manifesto by Valerie Solanas? I haven't
No.
read it. Oh, what's it called? It stands for, she was the person who shot Andy Warhol. And she has this amazing manifesto, which is called, oh my God, this is really annoying. I can't remember what it stands for. But it's something like slaughter all men. It's scum. It stands for. It's not slaughter. It's
Slay.
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 It was. Oh fuck. Okay, I'll have to look it up and then I'll get back to you. And then I think the mandala is a form of enlightenment, but she was very into reading about Eastern religions. Yeah, potentially ambiguously westernized. But unconfirmed. But I think I love the bells.
It's really
that song.
well. I really like, and we sort of keep bringing this up, like sort of And I guess this is sort of, I guess it doesn't necessarily sound like musically we've got a theme. Obviously we're playing folk, but all the folk is so different. But I guess that's sort of like the unofficial theme of this first episode, is that we sort of wanted to, as well as get to know each other, as well as you get to know us through the music that we're choosing, and what folk means to us individually. We're also, I guess, exploring like what is the definition of folk, and like we were saying before, how it maybe has this sort of two sides to it, where it's a genre musically, but it's also like a practice and a way of living, and a way of experimenting and building on music. And so I really like that you played that, especially after I feel like we keep playing songs that are quite different actually, but obviously they all fit under this banner of folk music, and that's quite exciting. And I think and we spoke about it the other day when we went to the pub after you took me climbing for the first time. It was so fun. And how folk can have this exclusivity about it, this like need for like you said, I think the word for it is authenticity. And that's what I mean. Folkways, I love folkways. It's sort of like my Bible for mainly like the States folk music.
Is it? I don't listen. Is it a? What is Folkways?
It's the record label by the Smithsonian Museum that sort of archived all of this folk music, and that its ethos, its sort of motivation for existing was to document all of these things authentically. And most of like a lot of the music that they recorded, are live recordings of songs, because they want it sort of, so to speak, straight from the horse's mouth, of the people who are actually singing this music. But there's also so much room. I mean, folk as a thing is that it changed throughout history. I mean, until we had the technology to actually record it, folk music wasn't like classical music or other genres of music that were written down. Like they weren't written, they were passed down orally. And that's kind of, and the fact that we've got these sort of genre bending songs coming in, and contemporary music that, you've got folk rock, you've got folk pop, you've got, I mean, what I played...
Folk hyphen literally
anything. I mean, what I played, Willow's song from The Wicker Man, is listed as a freak folk, which I love. Yeah. And I've seen that come up before. But yeah, and that is folk. Like, and obviously, I mean, I don't know where you draw the line, but I don't think that's up to me to say that's not folk music.
And I think what you're touching on there is just that this is why it's important to have conversations and inquire, because there is such a diversity of music that is obscured when you don't inquire as to what folk really is. And I'm thinking about like folktronica, which is just the weirdest genre on Spotify.
Folktronica.
Which makes you
that scares me a little bit.
I know, it makes you think that it'll be like an Irish jig set to like Disclosure house beats, but it's or something like, but it's actually loads of tends to just be like white male producers sampling from other parts of the world. That tends to be what folktronica has been in my experience on Spotify. And I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it is.
But I'd like to talk a little bit about Willow's song. So if you haven't seen The Wicker Man, that's another facet of folk, is folk film and folk horror, which I actually wrote my dissertation about. And it's such a good film. It's so freaky and spooky and like, I just love it. Have you seen it, Izzy?
No.
Okay, we're gonna watch it. But this song is the part of the film where, if you haven't seen The Wicker Man, it's about Sergeant Neil Howie, who's a policeman from the mainland in Scotland. I'm pretty sure it's in Scotland. And he gets sent over to this little island where there's been reports of a missing girl. And so he goes over to investigate, and what he uncovers is something quite different to what he expected. And this song is the part where the landlord's daughter is trying to seduce him. And yeah, it says, so I've just got a little bit about what they say. There's a really funny quote that I like in this. Where is it? According to Paul Giovanni, who was the composer, the idea for the song was completely original with me. There was no indication of what it was to be in the script, except a couple lines of absolute filth. And yeah, it was sourced by screenwriter Anthony Schaefer from various anthologies of lyrics that would be appropriate to spring pagan festivals. The main thing is in the rhythm, and we used all of the old twangy instruments in there. One couplet in the song is adapted from a poem by George Peele, part of his play The Old Wives' Tale, which was printed in 1595. Another may be taken from a verse of the Elizabethan drinking song, Martin said to his man. So that sort of links to what we were saying about folk just being this like super transformational like process, and that it is a lot of sampling, it is a lot of borrowing, it is a lot of building what's already there to make something new. And I just think it's a really beautiful song. It's quite funny. It's one of those songs where when you don't pay attention to the lyrics, when you do finally pay attention, you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was about. Like, it sounds so like sanguine and like sort
What
of
does
lullaby.
sanguine mean?
Like slightly sad and calm, I think.
Such a nice word. I read it the other day and I was like, that's so nice. What the fuck
does it mean? And yeah, and then actually you tune in and it's like she's sort of like wooing him through the wall. They share a wall in the inn, and she's like sort of stroking along the walls, and he's on the other side and he's trying to say his Hail Marys. And yeah, it's so great. Daisy Rickman, who's a contemporary folk singer, she does a cover of it that's up on her YouTube channel, which is really beautiful. But yeah.
Yeah, the one I know from that album is Gently, Gently, Gently Johnny, which is actually incredibly creepy with the lyrics.
Oh my
so
god!
creepy.
Again, yeah, just filth.
My Gigolo. Yeah, it's so creepy.
Well, this is it, because it's all so it's the spring. That's why it talks about the spring pagan festivals. Is that it's like, I mean, we say it's filthy, but it's also like that was the festival in spring. It was reproduction and new life and all of this stuff. So it was all about sex. Yeah. Like later on in spring, sort of, the maypole and all that phallic imagery.
Oh my god, there should be oh my god, of course the maypole is phallic imagery. That has completely passed me by. Oh my gosh, yeah, imagine, oh god, it'd be great to have like folk literotica. I went to such a good event at the Moth Club, which was reading of, it was like erotic readings, and one of them was reading of a Wattpad Twilight fan fiction. And I was like, this is literally oral history. This is folk oral history. This is so fantastic. It was so good. It was about what's the Alice, Bella, and oh my god, Edward having a threesome in the woods. It was fantastic.
Oh wow, I thought you was Alice Bella was like one name, Alice Bella.
Oh, Alice Bella.
Alice Bella.
Alice Bella. I just can't speak.
I mean, it is when two become one.
Yeah. When two become one.
We're really gonna
we've been saying we're gonna sing together. That's a first little taster. But yeah, and also because there's a really good publication called Rome, which is about trying to centre.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Contemporary and also like digital artists' work. I don't think they're specifically aimed at digital artists, but they end up having. That's what I took away from the publication, which is that they talk about how we shouldn't be calling it a folk revival, we should be calling it a folk renaissance, because people are making things that are new. And one guy that they were interviewing in the magazine was talking about how the folk culture that's being made now, it's probably all happening online. It's all happening in like subcultures. And when I think about really interesting subcultures, I often think about hyperpop as like something that's really interesting as a critical reflection of our current zeitgeist. But that's obviously feels so far away. It's like sonically from what we're looking at here. But something that I was thinking about when we think about authenticity and when we think about revivals, and something that I always think about is nostalgia, and how when you go looking for a particular idea of authenticity, you undermine the dynamicism of oral traditions and oral history making and oral meaning making, and oral epistemologies. Because
you love that word.
I love that word. I did like that came up. It came up so much in my dissertation. The worst drinking game ever would be to read my dissertation and drink. Every time I said epistemologies, it'd be the driest drinking game
Maybe that will be the next episode.
Yeah. Like maybe, sorry, I made it really loud, but maybe also the only way that you would have made it through. It was about land enclosure and religious cosmologies in the 18th century.
Wow.
But yeah, I think is that you kind of stagnate pieces of culture or pieces of history because you're searching for this like kernel of authenticity, this golden kernel of authenticity, which is to an extent what Cecil Sharp was trying to do. And I know there was a lot of politics between the kind of like small communities in southern and northern England and how he would take music from what he considered to be authentic folk music. And I think that's the problem about authenticity, is that you're trying to make something static which is inherently dynamic, and it becomes nostalgic, which is I think the opposite way we want to be moving in terms of writing stories about British nationhood at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. So well put. Well, a lovely segue. I think we've like gotten really excited that we've got an extra hour, so we've just like rambled and rambled and rambled.
Yeah. Also, feel free to just shut me up because I have such a habit of just.
No, this is why we're doing the
really
show
obvious.
together, Izzy. Well, a lovely segue to this is The Greenwood Side by Howl. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a little bit that I sort of read up on them. And sort of like, in line with what you were saying, they're sort of a collective of singers, and they hail from all sorts of musical backgrounds. So it's like from opera to folk to musical theatre, and they sort of got brought together by their love of like sort of quite absurd noises and sounds and music, and all quite like haunting. But yeah, so here's The Greenwood Side
Exciting.
by Howl.
She
There are many ways to go mad. I go out to roam with a rock in my fist and a gun in my bag, and I shoot Mussolini in the nose. I didn't shoot to skim the skin of his snout or his teeth or the lips on his mouth. I simply saw a bad egg and I thought I'd take the bad egg out. I fired twice, I didn't fire right, and they dragged me through the town. And the fascist dictator carried on, and I went down, down and down and then down more. They hurt me in and out, half tap, half mad, an ignorant tourist, an old Irish hag. They call me all sorts, but I moved in silence for the love of truth, not violence. And I'm mad and I know people don't really change, I suppose. They just go a little bad when they go. They locked me up in the Northampton house where I feed the Northampton birds. And I nurse the reasons why I think I'm a violet. I was never a rose. I've been 29 years here. I'm not ready to be here anymore. See me back on Marion Square, where in spring the violets still grow. I moved in silence for the love of truth, not violence. And I'm mad and I know people don't really change, I suppose. They just go a little bad when they go. There are many ways to go mad. I go out to roam with a rock in my fist and a gun in my bag, and I shoot Mussolini in the nose. I didn't shoot to skim the skin of his snout or his teeth or the lips on his mouth. I simply saw a bad egg and I thought I'd take the bad egg out.
Hello. Is it?
Hello? Yeah. Is mine on?
Or maybe, I think maybe you might have pushed it up. There you go.
I turn my microphone.
Wow, that last one was so beautiful.
Oh, I know. What do you tell us about yours first?
Okay.
In order.
I don't know loads about Howl. And actually, that's what I was trying to do in the little break. I was trying to look up whether the Greenwood Side is a traditional folk song anyway. I can't listen to it, but it does come up. Joan Baez has a version.
That's usually a sign.
That's you. If Joan Baez has recorded it, it is probably a traditional folk song. It's such a lovely song, and I love the group. They're actually performing in London in November on the 17th at Grand Junction with the Nest Collective.
Yes, Sam Lee. Oh,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I've got one of his songs on my on my USB.
On your USB. They're so beautiful, and like I was saying before, they come from a really diverse background, musical background. So, and you can really hear it when you hear all their voices coming in, and you can hear the sort of blend of all these different influences, like in this one folk song. And I just think it's so beautiful the way that they layer everything, and then with all the like they use like their bodies and things for sounds, like the like that is so.
It's very like. Do you know Meredith Monk?
No, I don't.
She's a quite experimental vocalist, and she's done very, very cool things. She's beautiful, lots of beautiful albums that are kind of themed around the earth and the land, and also concepts like the breath and the air and night and day. And she often does quite crazy exciting things with her voice, and I think it just reminds me of her a little bit.
Yeah, but that's interesting that you talk about the land and stuff, because actually listening to it and sort of looking a little bit into them, Howl the band, got me thinking about the relationship between folk music and our relationship with the land as human beings who, share this space with all the other creatures and all the other flora and fauna and things. And actually, their debut EP, which is this one, it's called Howl, it's self-titled, was produced by Cosmo Sheldrake.
Oh.
And I didn't, so then I was like, I kind of vaguely knew this, but then, so he is Merlin Sheldrake's brother who wrote Entangled Life, and they're both Rupert Sheldrake's son, who is like quite a famous biologist. Anyway, so I was like, wow, that's so interesting that like out of the same, basically almost the same source material can spring like different projects and different ways of relating the land, like some people do it by studying it and by understanding the science and how the plants relate to one another scientifically. Others relate to it musically, and that's the way, and that they create their relationship with the land. And I feel like folk music has a real sort of history and like tradition of doing that, of talking about human beings and the land that they walk on.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I love how Rupert was like, my kids are having much more interesting names.
I know. I mean, Sheldrake, though, is already a good place to start. I don't know why, but...
Did you see that?
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. It's a piece of fluff. I think it might be from my sock.
In Izzy's mouth.
Just like came out of my mouth. This is why I should keep my shoes on.
This is the chaotic nature of the first I say I'm trying to like excuse the chaotic nature. Well, first of all, I probably shouldn't excuse it. There's nothing to apologize for.
No,
but
we are perfect.
We are perfect as we are, flaws and all, chaos and all. But also that I keep saying like, oh, this is the first episode, but I doubt it will be any different moving forward.
No different at all. So good. It's really funny. I have a folk song that I need to work up, and it's actually, I really wanted to write a folk song in 5/4, just to be annoying. And it's a song about a story I read about the cold lad of Sunderland, who the story kind of goes that he had an affair with, he was in love with the Baron of Sunderland. I think it was the Baron of Sunderland's daughter, and then the Baron killed him and got off scot-free, and then they were haunted by the cold lad of Sunderland, the cold lad of Colton in Sunderland.
Wow.
But I feel this really deep connection to Sunderland, but I have never been there because I spent a really long time like going into this story and looking at all these pictures of the castle, and
that's
I
actually
really want to go there.
That's really interesting, and how you can feel like you have a relationship to a land that you've never even been to, and like Sunderland is still in the UK, and you know the land of the UK to a degree. So then, you know, where does that like begin and end? The knowingness, and actually, I was talking about this with two of my female friends the other day about the concept of knowing, and how actually we put so much emphasis on the much more logical like definition of knowing and understanding something. Like, can you explain it? Can you use language to describe it? But actually there's a knowingness that almost like you're describing, that you just have formed a connection, and that's a type of knowing. Or like, you know, I don't need to know, you know, your middle name or your parents' names or the hospital that you were in to feel like I know you and I'm connected to you, and that we can have that same connection with the land. We don't need to know all of these, like, you don't need to like break the land into little pieces for us to understand that. And actually folk music, I think, is a lovely sort of route into that connection with the land.
And thinking about knowing and ownership of knowledge, and what forms of knowledge are ascribed value by the institution, which is often kind of textual, historically has been textual, I'm going to use like the word geometric, because map making, this is what my dissertation on was, on map making, and the way that once kind of land had been laminated and was able to be geometricized, I think it's a word.
We're going with it.
We're carved up into sort of like measured. So for example, I know that when colonial activity was happening in America, initially in North America, but I think also this was quite common, and I know this actually also occurred between the English and the Irish as well, was this idea of measuring lands by different forms of knowing. So there were many places where, and this is specifically in the UK as well, where using the land was measured by, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but there was like a one hide, or I'm not exactly sure it was called, one something, and that meant that a amount of land that was arable enough to sustain a family, which means that if that land was particularly arid, it would have been a much larger surface area. Whereas then when kind of colonial forms of knowledge and map making came in, it was about centimeters, and it was about these about metrics, exactly, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you. And it's also very interesting about how those same methods were used to oppress and dispossess people in England and in Ireland, as well as overseas in kind of like the in the larger colonial network. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. We're really like loving that we've got 2 hours. And just like chat.
I know, but this is also getting on to like what my dissertation was about. So I'm like,
I know I can pull on all of these sources.
But should I quickly talk about? So that song I played was Violet Gibson by Lisa O'Neill, who's one of my favourite folk singers. Her and Brady Pete are kind of the making big waves in Ireland at the moment and across. Brady Pete's the lead singer of Lancome, and they've done amazing stuff over here. But Lisa O'Neill is also an incredible folk singer who is one of those few singers where I like all of her albums. Like her first albums are amazing. Her second albums, they're all fantastic. She's a wonderful song about Bob Dylan, which I really want to play at some point in the show. And I saw her perform in Bristol at the Boiling Wells Amphitheatre, ?
I don't know it.
It's like an
Boiling
outdoor
Wells is quite
amphitheatre
far. It's
away.
far.
Far.
If something isn't like
Like,
within a half-hour walking
Yeah.
distance, and even half an hour is like, I might not actually come and see you in Bristol.
In Bristol. I know, now we're in London and both come.
Yeah, I know
Um,
exactly.
And I listened to a lot of her music, but I hadn't listened to this song properly. And it is a song that she's written a story about, so given life to. And so some of her, it's on the same album as a song called Along the North Strand, which is a traditional folk song, which is fairly well known, I think. And then so alongside that song, which obviously has a bit more, it has like a weightier chronology to it. This is like a new song, and it's about giving life to this Irish woman who basically went over and very almost killed Mussolini.
Yeah, I heard that bit. I was going to ask about it.
Yeah, so she went over.
She says almost shot
she-
Mussolini in the nose.
She got. Okay, I want to get this right. She just was reading about a lot of the stuff that was going on in Italy. She thought it was awful, and so she travelled to Italy with a gun in her pocket, and she shot Mussolini, and it just shaved off a bit of skin on his nose, and it's so almost killed him at a really pivotal time.
What
in his
happened to that
political
woman?
career. Well, then she got sent to an asylum in Scotland. And that's why she talks about, like, they called me all sorts, like an old Irish hag, a mad woman. But she's just one of those, like, kind of unsung heroes that very almost kind of butterfly moment would have had a huge impact on European political history and Italian political history.
How are you saying that she's insane for trying to kill? I mean, obviously, like, there are different. I wouldn't try and kill someone, no matter how bad they are.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not, like, I don't have the, like, I have the compassion, you know, to understand why someone would. It's so weird that someone would be like, oh, you're crazy for trying to kill a dictator. What do you mean?
I know.
What do you mean? What else would you have me do?
I know who's crazy in that situation.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
I was having a conversation with someone who's like works in psychology, and we were talking about how madness can be highly culturally contingent.
Completely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
completely. I think I might. What's the word?
What?
Start the next song.
Yeah.
couplet.
We've
The
been
next song couplet. Okay, I'm gonna play "Gone So Long" by Nora Brown and Stephanie Coleman. Nora Brown on the banjo and Stephanie Coleman on the fiddle.
I love you, baby. You've been gone so long. You've been gone so long. You done me wrong. I'll miss you so. I need you, honey. You've been gone so long. You've been gone so long. You done me wrong. I'll miss you so. I need your loving. You've been gone so long. You've been gone so long. You done me wrong. I'll miss you so. been gone so long. You've been gone so long, you done me wrong, I'll miss you so.
Ratan hiokan eja eja, 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 ratan hiokan eja eja.
I really love that. Oh wait, we can take the mics out of the little stands so that we're not leaning awkwardly and giving ourselves back problems.
Oh my god,
I
definitely.
need to stretch.
I actually just got a desk in my room, but I still seem to work on the floor. I still sit on the floor like hunched over. It's so bad.
Yeah, actually, this is a good reminder. If anyone's listening, take 5 minutes to stretch your body out, breathe a little bit deeper, feel your feet on the ground. Yeah.
And also an exercise you can do is if you like bring your shoulder blades together and like tuck your chin in, like bring your chin
Super
really,
flattering.
really far back, super hot. And then if you do that for like 30 seconds, like when you've done it, like you should like have better posture. It's like just like you go really far the other way. Sorry, I'm not still doing it.
Yeah. You said 30 seconds, man.
And then
I'm still standing like this. I also learned one where you, it's like the reverse of cactus arms, where it's like your arms down, and then you twist your shoulder socket and bring it up to cactus arms and sort of feel it like pushing back, but you're not like pushing to bring everything together. And then you do that for like a minute, and then apparently that's... So yeah, some good tips for posture correcting.
Yeah, that's what you're here for.
That's also what you're here for.
Do you want to tell us a bit about Nora Jones?
Yeah, Nora Brown.
Oh, sorry.
Nora Brown and Stephanie Coleman. Like I said before, Nora Brown is a banjo and guitar player. She played the banjo on that track, Gone So Long, and Stephanie Coleman plays the fiddle. And I first heard them at Fire in the Mountain, which is a festival in Wales. And I went for the first time this year after I got back from Brazil. then had a day at home, and then went to
Oh my
Wales.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back with one of my closest friends, Sky, and we just had the best time. It's all like in celebration of folk music, and there are all sorts of workshops, and obviously that's sort of what we were talking about before, is that those folk spaces also are spaces in which you can talk about your relationship to the land. And there were like herbalism workshops, and there was yoga and breathwork and all sorts of stuff that you don't, it all fits under that bracket, because it's all about your relationship to people and land and
Like
place.
somatic and oral histories, I think,
Yeah.
quite intertwined.
And just it all just being like holistic, basically, rather than just like separating. It's like separating the head from the rest of the body. Just talking about, if we were doing, if this radio show that we're doing, we were only talking about music. I mean, obviously there's 100% place for that, but I think both of us, it's like we see it so interconnected with so many different things that it would feel like we were separating it from the rest of itself. But yeah, it's a lovely song. I don't actually know whether it's was like written and made by them, or whether it's a traditional folk song that they're doing a version of. Nora Brown does like a big mixture of that. Like some of her stuff is completely original, and some of it is her own versions, her own interpretations of things. There's another beautiful song from the EP Lady of the Lake, which is what Gone So Long is on, and it's her EP with Stephanie Coleman. And they were saying at Fire in the Mountain before they played the track Lady of the Lake that it was back in the days of like, I think, when I say back in the days, Reddit is still a thing, but I was going to say MySpace, but I think it's Reddit. But I think she basically like Stephanie Coleman asked to put like a call out, like she wanted to learn. It was like, I think at the beginning of her journey into folk music, and she wanted to learn sort of like Eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, sort of like Southern Appalachian music. And someone sent her, this is a really bad story because I actually can't remember all the details of it, but it's like some like man got in touch with her, and the sort of the setup of that communication felt slightly weird, and she had to keep reassuring all of like the audience when she was telling the story at Fire in the Mountain that like it sounds really creepy. And I did that, there was a part of me that was sort of worried what this man was gonna like send to me.
Yeah.
But then he just sent this song Lady of the Lake that she then learned, and then her and Nora Brown do a version of it on the EP. And it's so lovely. But that's not the one I played, but it's so beautiful in there.
It's so nice to have intergenerational connections over folk music as well. And I think it's so interesting when you talk about how separating, like having a holistic understanding of music is something that includes the land, and includes like a sense of placing. And then in relation to like the mind-body separation of like Cartesian dualism, because before that idea of the body as like mechanics, when they started to like have surgeries on people's bodies, and they started to understand anatomy, and they thought that the body was a machine and the mind was something else, was something more divine. Before
like
that,
joystick sort of controlling what all these body parts do.
Exactly. And then and also like with industrialization, that was like kind of blurring them in the sort of cultural imaginary, although that was a bit later. But before that, people used to think that in England at least, there was this idea that the body was a microcosm of the world. So that you're kind of like
a smaller version of all of those things.
And it was indicative of sort of God's. Have I turned it off again? No, it was indicative of God's design, and that so things that you would see in the land would be reproduced in your body, almost sort of thing, or that they were indicative of both. And you can so understand how you would see that, like blood and veins and.
I mean,
things like that.
Yeah, it is. Like that's not that as we move as like. Science and things and thoughts progressed, like they didn't have to eradicate what came before. They could have just built on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's completely true. I mean, you see those like those mirrors and like, you know, like you were saying, like veins and like the sort of pattern of rivers on the land almost looks like veins, or like the underside of a leaf and you see all the leaf veins and things, or like fingerprints looking like landscapes, and like, or even like the curves of your body, like around your belly or your thighs, look like, you know, rolling hills, or they look, you know, it's so like mirrored between nature and our bodies.
Back on history and thinking about how we can sort of like reclaim certain understandings for like modern perceptions. So, because of course there is a lovely like holistic idea and of interconnectedness to that, but then again, I think that it was very dogmatic and Christian at the same time. We're probably going off track too.
No,
much.
I suddenly remembered the time, and we've actually only got like. We've got 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, should I talk about the track that I
played?
played?
You talk about the track. Yeah.
Okay. So I played a song called Yes - Singing by Ursula Le Guin and Todd what's his name? Todd Barton. So Ursula Le Guin is probably one of the most amazing sci-fi writers, or like heralded sci-fi writers.
He did tell me about this.
Yeah, of the 20th century, and she has also really amazing, beautiful writing, like feminist writing, and she has a really wonderful quote I think is super relevant to what she's talking about, how she criticizes this idea of making a cult of women's knowledge, and how women's knowledge is seen as being kind of like intuitive and beneath. She describes it as analogous to being beneath the soil and kind of primitive, whereas men's knowledge is something that's, or masculinist knowledge is something that's above the soil and more to do with governance, which I think is really interesting in terms of how gender essentialism can creep so much, as we were talking about the other day, can creep so much into these sort of like folky, neo-spiritual spaces of holistic and alternative medicine, as well as that you kind of get this idea of the divine feminine. And I think she has such a good kind of critique of that, about how you can't make a cult of women's knowledge. But yeah, so back to the song, is that this whole album is basically a fictional folk album, and it is songs of it's music and poetry of the Kesh, and the Kesh are a fictional group of people in her books, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which book. I haven't actually got round. So still making my way through Sarah J. Maas's Court of Thorn and Roses. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know that.
It's like the really popular it's like really popular, like sort of like fairy smut books.
Oh my
like
god!
Incredibly lowbrow Ursula Le Guin.
Oh my god, I love that.
And with lots of.
I need to add that to my list.
It's so good. It's unbelievable. I think that only the first two books are really, really
Maybe
good.
we should do like an erotic reading of it.
Oh my god, I have it. Actually, no, I don't have it in my bag. I have it in my bag because I cycled here. But yeah,
next time.
That's I think, and it's really interesting because I think that it's like conceptually such an interesting album. But I don't actually think all of the songs on it are that successful. I think that there's ways in which, I don't know, I was trying to listen through it and thinking about what unites the sounds, and I think that they kind of differ a lot in time signature, and I think there's a way that they could have played with very unique time signatures and also polyphonic singing in a way that kind of sort of groups of people who maybe haven't interacted with mainstream culture, which is sort of the idea that they're touching on, often develop, rather than just, But that song particularly, I really, really, really like. Like, I wish they hadn't done any songs on 4/4. But this is, I think I wish they'd kind of, I don't know, part of me wishes that it was like theoretically more, had like a really consistently unique language. But that's just me being a bit picky.
Okay, well, I think we've sort of come to the end of the show now. This is for real. We're not gonna go
encore
another hour. I think because of the time, we actually don't have time to play 2 songs. So I'm wondering whether we just play our lovely little jingle again that Izzy made for our show, and basically say goodbye to everyone and thank you for listening. We were just talking in the sort of interim, and we want to maybe make this a fortnightly show, so you can hear from us a lot.
So much to
say.
So
much to say, clearly. Like, I think I think we've only played like 5 or 6 songs each, which actually isn't that much in the space of 2 hours.
I know. I think you're right. We need to have themes.
Yeah.
I need also, because I will just spider off, especially I know how my brain works.
But this is what we were talking about. Folk is holistic. Folk has so many little branches and twigs and leaves and then
and that's
little dewdrops on the leaves. And there's just so many parts of it to talk about. So, yeah.
And that's when you realise how, and that, oh my God, now I'm getting reminded of like bronchial. Was it you I was talking about?
Oh, yeah, because I was telling you about my asthma.
Yeah. I was reminded of those diagrams we saw kind of like when in biology and GCSE, and then you went in, or like the micro villi. And like how it was like literally like the complete top chat of like year 11 was like micro willies on the, do you remember that?
No.
Like on the inside of the gut you have these things that absorb your nutrients and absorb from the food and absorb the good stuff from the food. They have this really high surface area because if you like zoom in and in, they're called, I think it's maybe called fractal design.
Fractal willy.
And yeah. And you have, it's still good, still so funny.
This is when we realised we have not grown as human beings since like year 11.
Yeah, and then the teacher would go, and here you have the villi, and you have the micro villi, and the micro villi, and everyone was like, this is genuinely the funniest thing to ever happen, ever.
German micro willies.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
But that reminded me of that. And yeah, exactly, like folk is just one very
big, long micro villi.
So unfeminine. It's the maple. But yeah, and how like it's just actually covers there's too much covered by folk. And the term itself it's like kind of the word, like there are these certain words in history that you get that just forced to hold so much meaning that they almost just become like non-existent. Like the word nature in the 18th century comes up all the time to the point where you're just like, what does this mean? Like people are forcing it to bear so much weight and so much meaning.
Yeah. And just to be clear, we're by no means going to try and like define it.
No,
like, this is the definition. This is definitely like an exploration, and we both come from like, I mean, similarly artistic sort of backgrounds, but you did, what was your undergrad in?
My undergrad was in history of art.
Yeah, mine was theatre and film. So then, coming from similar area, but, quite different perspectives. But yeah, not to get too academic about it though, either. Like this is chill. This is really chill.
I love getting academic.
I know you've been using so many good words.
Because I kind of want to go back and do this for postgraduate studies.
There we go. So this can be the portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not anymore if we talk about microvilli. Not sure how seriously they'll take me.
You can edit it. Okay.
Okay, should we play it out?
12:59.
Okay.
We've gone from breakfast to lunch. Thank you so much for listening.
Have a lovely week. Bye.
What have you got for breakfast today? It's the most important meal of the day. And we've got some more for you, some tunes and some talk.
We've gone from breakfast to lunch. Thank you so much for listening.
Have a lovely week. Bye.